Glad you could attend. Come inside. Come inside. We are here live on Animal House Radio via American Forces Network, and tonight is a special show. We have we are celebrating and honoring our veterans for Veterans Day today, and we have a spectacular guest tonight. This gentleman is iconic. He has a monster schedule, and he's taken some time out to be with us tonight. Tremendous gentleman who you've seen on the big screen, and he's made some of the most iconic movies that we know and love. Please join us in welcoming back, since the last time we had him on was about 2018. Please welcome back the very talented Ralph Macchio. Ralph, thank you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's our pleasure and an honor. Let me introduce these two distinguished gentlemen to you.
Yes.
In the dark blue suit and the beautifully new haircut that he must have went out and got today is U.S. Navy retired Captain Daniel Senesky.
Hi, Captain Senesky. How are you?
Great. Good to see you, Ralph. Appreciate being here.
Same.
And also joining us is retired Army Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Vicci, who heads a tremendous organization called vetrest.org. And basically that organization helps our men and women coming back home from their deployments to acclimate themselves back to civilian life.
Fantastic.
Mr. Macchio, it's a pleasure. I spent the last 2 nights reading your book. So I have to tell you, as a West Point guy, we should read a lot of books. I don't. That's the first book I've read in about 30 years front to back. So I really enjoyed it. So I said, if Carlo wants me to do something, I better do it right. So
Thank
an
you.
absolute pleasure to meet you, sir.
Same. Just don't throw it overboard. I see it.
I'm the Army guy. I'm the Army pilot.
There you go.
I see the ocean behind you in your virtual.
Ralph,
thank you both for your service and for having me on. This is
it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Ralph, before we end the interview, you must tell us the location of the Fountain of Youth. You can't keep it to yourself any longer.
I think my grandmothers, both my grandmothers had it. I blame them. I just it's the question that always comes up. It's been it's been traveling with me since probably middle to junior high school, when everybody else was like, going through puberty, and I'm like, I'm still here. So for some reason I've stretched it out as long as possible and somehow carry the title of kid in some way. But it gets a little tougher in the mornings. It takes a little longer to get out of bed, folks.
I hear you. So I'm going to start with I'm going to ask the first question, then I'm going to turn it over to our distinguished guest. Actors, whenever they get a role, they always have to train or study for a part. Did you feel that not having any martial arts experience for the Karate Kid would hurt your performance? It wouldn't seem as realistic?
I don't think so, because I never felt that, because and it was I actually speak to this in an early chapter in the book, the Becoming the Kid chapter, which is chapter 1. I speak of, John Avildsen, the director, always saying, the more on the outside of it all this character is, the more we're rooting for him, the more he is not in his comfort zone, be it he's a fish out of water, a kid from Newark, New Jersey, now in California. Everyone knows martial arts. He's trying to learn it from a book. And little do we know that he's going to run into a human Yoda in Mr. Miyagi that guides him in life. So I never felt that. I never felt that, but I also had some athleticism, not much, some athleticism, a little bit of theater dance training I had. I wanted to be Gene Kelly from the earliest time
Oh, wow.
growing up. So I also mentioned that, that was a big influence on me growing up, watching those old movies with my mom. So I took some dance classes. I played baseball, a little hockey, little soccer. So I was able to use that, even though I had, kind of zero martial arts when I started.
Wow. All right, Danny, you want to, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. And, Ralph, I watched The Karate Kid at the theater when it first came out, and I was instantly hooked when I learned you were portraying, a young Italian American from Newark,
Right.
With the same first name as me, no less, right?
Yes.
But that wasn't the original name of the character, was it now?
No, it was Danny Weber,
Ugh.
Webber. Robert Mark Kamen, the great screenwriter who wrote that screenplay, which is really just a classic lesson in aspirational wish fulfillment storytelling. I think he knew someone he took the name off of someone he knew, and it's a poignant moment. And even in the book, I tell the story of when I got the script, it was always Daniel Weber, and then once I got the part, right before I got the part, they had it written as Daniel LaRusso. And I figured that's probably a good tip now that they changed it. They've added a vowel at the end. I thought maybe it was solidifying my marriage to this part. Who knew I was going to be married for almost 40 years
Wow.
and still going in this role, right?
Just for those of us just joining us, especially our men and women overseas on AFN, joining us tonight is the very special Ralph Macchio. We're here to talk about his new book, Waxing On, The Karate Kid and Me, which is now atop the New York Times bestseller list, and rightly so. It was a no-brainer that it was going to go. Ralph, I actually met you a few weeks ago up in Ridgewood. I was the guy that couldn't walk down the stairs.
That was in Ridgewood when I was in Jersey. Yeah.
But
Oh, wow.
it was an honor. I tell you what, though, and this is a compliment. I know you're doing like promotion after promotion, and even as tired as you look, you still look better than me on my
I don't
best
know.
day.
I don't know. I probably had some makeup and hairstylist helping me out, holding me up.
Yeah.
But yeah, great. Good to
Rob?
see you.
Ralph, it's truly a pleasure because so many of us have grown up with you over the years. I've got you by a few years, but so many of us have seen you on the big screen from your early starts to, of course, our local favorite, my cousin Vinny, and the role you did. I mean, probably I can't. My wife and I watched that. I just can't imagine. I could see you laughing while you're on scene, and I'm like, I love that they don't edit those out, that they show your real emotions, because we all see it and feel it. But so many people want to thank you. So many veterans I spoke to today and yesterday, Missy in particular in Florida, just wants to thank you for giving us 40 years. I mean, 40 years of the Karate Kid 1, 2, 3 and Cobra Kai, and so many folks are getting into it. You mentioned in your book that you were following along like some of the others were not excited about Mr. Miyagi.
Yes.
At first, so can you tell us about that and how because you grew from that? That's something that you learned, that you grew from as an actor and as a man. Tell us about that experience, if you would.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's people this is a good life lesson. That's what I was trying to pepper throughout the book. It's not just about making of the movie. It certainly is, and behind the scenes and all that stuff, and how it affects my life and a celebration of that role and that movie and pop culture in the world and all that. That is what it is. But there's also these little poignant, I'd like to believe they're poignant life lessons in there. And so preconceived notions, when you think you know who someone is based on either what you're told or through the lens of someone else, or in this case, through the television, and you draw conclusions without really diving in and going past the book by its cover, if you will, right? So with Pat Morita, I grew up watching Happy Days, as I'm sure you guys know, Tuesday nights on ABC, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy. I mean, that was it, right?
Those were the days.
Those were the days, right? So when I heard, and I didn't have the part yet. I mean, they made an offer, but I didn't have the part until Pat Morita and I screen tested together. But I was in first position and all that stuff. And they said, oh, they're bringing in Pat Morita. I was like, you mean Arnold from Happy Days? Because they were they were looking at actors like Toshiro Mifune, who's a great Akira Kurosawa, the Seven Samurai kind of film actor of that time. And, there's had to be an authentic realism to this Okinawan sensei, even though he was written with a heart and humor. It still made no sense that the comic cook in Mel's Diner with Richie and Fonzie was going to be the one to have all this depth and layers and play this great mentor. And I walk in the room to meet him, and I was like, wow, this sounds, they were, and the studio was not really on board with it. It was John Avildsen, the director, who saw a tape, and the casting director, and they just said, this is the guy. He has all the beats. He has the rhythm. He has everything. He has the heart. He has the depth. And I walk and I met him, and there was, and Arnold from Happy Days was nowhere to be found. He was articulate. He was genuine. There was an instant give and take with him and I. It was just easy and effortless. And it was in that moment that I didn't understand that we had the chemistry that we had at the upfront. I was a little young to grasp that, but I knew it was effortless and easy, and everything that I was concerned about just disappeared. And so, and he was, I mean, there's no other choice. I mean, who could play that role? I mean, Mr. Miyagi was Pat Morita, and he was nominated for an Academy Award for that role in the Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid in '84.
And if I can follow up one quick one, Carlo, because you made it very clear in your book, Ralph, about Pat's heritage and about what happened after World War II with the internment camps. And if you would talk about it, because, we're tying in Veterans Day, and, you have, Captain Daniel on with us and all, but tie that moment together for us, because I think that was a defining thing for me in your book, was bringing that piece to the forefront and saying, no, my God, don't cut that out of this movie, because it was very moving for me, because many of us have had those moments, and we've been drunk and we've told our secrets.
Right. Exactly.
You held on to that.
Yeah. Well, that's a credit to the screenwriter and the director. And at the end of the day, the studio made the right decision. But Robert Mark Kamen wrote that backstory, and Pat Morita, and I learned this during the rehearsal process on that day, that he had spent 2 years in an internment camp himself, 2 different internment camps when he was very young. And I allude to this in the book, I didn't even have that much knowledge of what that was. I mean, we knew what the World War II, the German, the concentration camps and things such as that. But I didn't have knowledge of that in the U.S. If you had Japanese American heritage, whatever you would put in these camps. And then they wrote this story that he would lose his wife and child due to complications at birth. And it's all this backstory of, it makes Miyagi all the more human. And then it makes Daniel LaRusso all the more underdog hero, that he takes his lessons and he has something even further to fight for, and the beliefs. It's beautiful stuff, and beautifully, the music is spectacular, but Bill Conti's music. But it's also, what a lot of people don't know is the Karate Kid, as much as it's considered an 80s popcorn movie, probably more than that, but for a while it was, it was the first a mainstream Hollywood movie to ever address that subject matter, of Japanese internment camps. 1984 is the first major motion picture that was from a major studio. So it was kind of ahead of its time in that regard. And anytime you could teach through history, and as a kid, I never liked history. I was like, why do I have to study something 20 years ago? As I get older, because I'm now becoming part of history,
Right.
It's more and more interesting to me. And I wanted to share that, not only with readers that are around our age and such, but also maybe a couple of young readers that might pick up this book and gain something more from it, and besides, how do you catch a fly with chopsticks? And that it took 5 days. It took 5 days to figure it out.
Oh my God, Ralph! You know what I found interesting? In 2018 was one of the first times we had you on the show. At that time, you had just finished season 1 of Cobra Kai, and we had you on, and you were like so nervous about, oh my God, what are we going to do for season 2? Now you're like coming up on season 6. And unlike other shows, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan, I go back to the 80s with you, Ralph. I go back to Crossroads and The Outsiders and all that. But when you're hooked on a series or a show, you start to notice that, like, all right, this season was good, but yours is the reverse. It gets better and better and better, and you make the viewers want to take that journey with you. I don't know how you pulled it off, but kudos for that, though.
Well, it's really, I'd love to take all the credit. I cannot. The guys who write, listen, it's a collaboration, and anytime you see a movie or television, because there's so many elements. It's the obviously, it starts with the text. It starts with the script. it's not on the page, it's not on the stage, right? That's the old phrase. But so it really needs to start there. But then casting elevates it, music elevates it, vision elevates it, stunt coordination in these cases. So all those elements, everyone working together, the guys who write the show, the main three, and the entire writing staff, John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Heald, are three massive Karate Kid fans. They grew up knowing every piece of the fabric
Yeah.
of the tapestry of that way more than I do. Like, I'll even say a line inflection. They'll say, well, could you put the emphasis on this like you did in that? I was like, oh, I did it that way? Yeah. And then the audience is going to know that we're paying homage to that, or they'll give it to one of the younger casts of younger characters in the show to do a scene that sort of emulated maybe me meeting Elizabeth Shue and the body language and sort of how he delivered a line. And so it's not just storytelling. It's keeping, the fan service, but yet telling relevant stories for 2022. I mean, how many movies do that? And I'd like to think that the book does a little bit of that too, that it is nostalgic and contemporarily relevant at the same time. And these guys just do a great job of that, and taking characters from Karate Kid Part 2 and Karate Kid Part 3 and giving them more layers and dimension and evolution. And now I'm having I'm squaring off with Terry Silver from Part 3, which I always thought was kind of not a good movie. And now it's giving birth to more story, and I got 12 and 15-year-old kids like saying, "When season 6 coming?" It's really kind of
That's
amazing to have that multi-generational thing, which is a good reason why I thought it was time to sit down and sort of tell my story of walking in these shoes and put it in book form.
Absolutely. I grew up in the 80s and I didn't see much of it. Not to say that it didn't exist, but the Karate Kid, the underlying theme, or maybe the overlying theme, is bullying. And I'm not saying that it didn't go on, but I think the movie now is more relevant now because it seems to be more of an epidemic now than it ever was. And I think it's like movies like The Karate Kid and Revenge of the Nerds. I mean, I didn't see much of it. Not saying, like I said, it didn't exist, but I think it shines a spotlight on it that this is a bad thing.
Yeah, well, it's technology makes it more multi-dimensional, I think, and it's more covert. It used to be, the bullying was back in the day when you didn't have a phone where you could pick it up and you could actually bully someone in 5 seconds and you were faceless and you are hurting someone. It's not so much give me your lunch money, or I'm going to stuff you in a locker kind of thing, or meet me in the back of the schoolyard and I'm going to make fun of you, pour the milkshake over your head, kind of like standard what we grew up with as bullying. But then it gets more complicated, and also, I mean, I do touch on that in the book as well. I put a disclaimer because in a way I'm not a expert on it, but I have experience with it, whether I've experienced it or played characters that were bullied, even in The Outsiders and the Karate Kid for that matter, because it spans anywhere from simple teasing in school to the other side of the spectrum, which is devastating. What happens? So it's not to be taken lightly, but and Cobra Kai tackles the issue of bullying, as well as those themes from the Karate Kid: bullying, mentorship, single parenting, overcoming obstacles, fatherless teen, moving to a different town. These are all themes in storytelling and in life that anyone could have, or very relatable.
Very relatable. Yeah.
Very
Dan?
relatable. And that's why it stands up and still stands the test of time.
Absolutely. Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to tag on to that because, Ralph, toward the end of your book, there's a sentence you wrote which was really profound, probably one of the most profound sentiments in your book, Waxing On. Daniel LaRusso is precious to me. And when it appears towards the end of the book, you've already painted a picture as to why. And but even then, when I read it, it really stood out. And I just wanted to see from, where does that perspective come from? Is it how much you related personally to the character? Is it the fame that it brought you? Was it the work you've done with, Robert Kamen's screenplay or John Avildsen's direction, your friendship with Pat Morita? I imagine it's a little bit of everything. I'm just wondering, were there some things or some dynamics above all others that made that character precious to you?
That's a great question. One of the best questions I've had in all the book tour stuff. So I want to tip my hat to you on that. I mean, I get such the basic questions all the time, and that one is terrific. So I appreciate it. Yes, it's a little of everything you mentioned, right? It's Avildsen, it's Pat Morita, it's the script, it's the actors I worked with. But overall, I think when I wrote that line, because I say Daniel LaRusso is precious to me and he's worth it, it's when I was talking about the collaborative push and pull I have with the Cobra Kai writers. Sometimes I'll disagree with them, and I stick to my guns. They always get the tiebreaker because they are conducting. They're conducting the entire orchestra, and I'm just protecting the lead trumpet or whatever. But the reason that line is written, what's precious to me, is it's because of the fans. It's because of what I hear on the street and what I've heard for 38 years when someone would say this movie changed my life, or as simple as this got me through a tough time, or this was the movie my grandfather took me to see and we talked about and he's no longer here, or this is the movie that my mom took me and my brother to, and we, I could go on and on and on of the impact of the Karate Kid film, and that Daniel LaRusso character gave many people that feeling that they could have. It's wish fulfillment, right? He was the every kid next door who had no business winning anything, and the fact that he did made us all feel, it's like a Rocky story in that way. Same director. So the fact that he's precious to me is I feel responsible and to protect what that character's meant to everyone. Sometimes in the Cobra Kai story, I need to step back and just let the story take place. And I've gone out of my comfort zone a few times, and it has yielded good results and excellent results. But there are times I'll even watch the show and I'll feel like, not that I cut the integrity, but I got it, and then I want to go back and I'll do another scene and I'll add a little something more to it. It's because I care, and so do the guys who write the show. But he's precious to me because of what he means to everybody.
Right, Ralph. In the book, there was a section where I think you had finished My Cousin Vinny, and work was drying up, and you were worried about getting typecast. And I think the quote you used in the book was, "No one wants the Karate Kid."
Right.
How much of a concern was that for you? Like how dire did it get for you?
It got, I would say, right before My Cousin Vinny, I was feeling all of that. You just feel it within the industry. I didn't feel it out that's much out on the street when I met with people, but in Hollywood decision makers, I was off that list. It was like my time had come. I'd been so typecast, and I always, and I have to say, I decided to age way too slowly to graduate out of that character, so it didn't help me that I didn't all of a sudden, look much different for the next 10 to 15 years or whatever it was. Right. So, but it did get, and I write to that a little bit, the struggle of the frozen in time section when I couldn't get out of that pigeonholing, and I wasn't working too much as an actor, and I wasn't, I had to figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to navigate through that. And my wife and I, we just had our first child, and so I was always been pretty conservative with spending, and I never, so I never, got it and spent it and thought it was going to last forever. Oh, I did think it was going to last forever, like every person in their 20s. Right. But I was able to string stuff together. My wife works as a nurse practitioner. We've been together for 35 years. We've been married for 35 years. We've been together a very long time. And she's a big part of getting through all that stuff, us having that commitment to each other. But, there were certainly certain days that were not pleasant that I thought, wow, this is done. And but I always stayed creative. I'd write a screenplay, I'd shoot a short film, I'd do theater, and then it always between The Outsiders and Karate Kid, I was always relevant. It was about how do you make and now it's just crazy times 1,000. What happened with the explosion of Cobra Kai and on Netflix? Because when I spoke to you at first, it was on YouTube, and just it was popular, but it didn't have this global explosion that Netflix gave it. And then the pandemic was going on, so we were like the best cheeseburger you ever ate that you remember as a kid, and it became that show.
Rob?
First of all, you've mentioned one thing that most of us in the military never do, and that's stay married for 35 years. So, as I learned more about you, it's funny. You said you were a little bit of a wise guy when you were younger because you were smaller. You weren't a great athlete, as you said, but I think as you've performed and as you've worked through the industry, which I'm sure is a very challenging industry, one I would never want to be in. I'd rather go fight bad guys overseas than do what you do, Ralph.
Wow.
And it just seems that you learned your life lessons by being Daniel and by working in that field. But there's got to be that one training moment, that one wax on moment that just really stuck with you. What was that one? Is there that one thing? I'm sure there's many, but the one real lesson that you would give to the younger people today, not only maybe coming up through the industry, but young people that are out there struggling in a bullying type environment. They just moved, they have no friends, something like, what's that wax on moment that you'd like to give to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't have the magic trick or the magic answer, because it's really hard to put that all into one thing. For me, a lot of lessons I learned, happen over time as you gain wisdom, for lack of a better description. Youth is wasted on the young. I think I even wrote that. And there was one line I said, I remember doing an interview I came off stage. I was doing a Broadway show with Robert De Niro, a Broadway play with Robert De Niro and Burt Young. And someone said, so what, you have the Karate Kid 2 out, the Mets are in the World Series. Everything's going great. What's next? And I was like, well, I'll probably work on and off till I'm 30, and then I'll kick back and, retire. I was like, the stupidest thing anyone could ever say. That's my youth is wasted on the young line. And because then within 5 years, I was not working at all.
It was good in theory.
Yeah. So, right, exactly. It would be an awesome theory. So I guess the moment, that's a tough question to answer, because there was no real necessarily one epiphany moment that was, wow, all these chores pay off in our karate moves, which is just perfect cinema, right? But there's I think going back and looking back probably happened in the drier periods of time when I was, when after my cousin Vinny, probably in the 2000s, early 2000s, my kids were young, and I got to spend so much time with them because I wasn't as busy. And I remember there was a specific day that I was with both my kids, and I think I was, a little frustrated that I didn't have the roles that I wanted, or some, and it was a specific moment that I did feel that this is the thing to embrace right now. I should not be embracing the negativity of not having what I want. I need to embrace the positivity of what I do have. And now, not always. Sometimes it's what makes it complicated is someone may not have something that they could shift and divert their attention that is wonderful to focus on. But you have to look for those things that you have in life that are inspiration or positive, or something you've achieved, or even if it's super small and the big thing is not there. So, focus on that positive moving forward. I think that was a moment, a small moment, not the biggest eureka moment in the world, but I remember that time. I'm saying I'm pissed off about this, but my two kids are healthy and thriving. Get it together, kind of.
Right.
Snap out.
Ralph, I got to ask
awesome.
you, in season 5 of Cobra Kai, there was a scene, and I got welled up from it, and it was like you went into the dojo where you haven't been in years, and you said it's
Yeah,
like looking into a time capsule. Now
yeah,
I
yeah.
know you're a phenomenal actor, but I really think that kind of like got you welled up a little because Pat
100%.
Morita was so beloved, and what would you think Pat would say if he was looking down at the series? Like would he say okay, or would he, you
I
know?
think he would love it. I think he would be I feel him cheering the whole show. I mean, I do. I love that scene. I love that, he's walking in there, and believe me, the emotion was real. I mean, there were a few takes that I was like, my tears were, but they were almost too much. I couldn't, like, I was trying to make it emotional, but I didn't want the scene to be about like tears running down my face. But the director actually had played the music from the Karate Kid, just this beautiful pan flute music when I walked in the room, and it was his idea, and that was, I mean, half the crew was like, all choked up because
Wow.
I think Pat, and I've written a lot about him in the book because he really was the soulful magic, and he is the secret sauce of the Karate Kid, that flavor that makes it taste better than any other burger, if you will. And there I go twice
Yeah.
with burgers. I don't even
Yeah.
eat that
Yeah.
many burgers, but it's a
You're
good
a
analogy.
vegetarian. Stop it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the Impossible Burger.
Yeah.
So I think he would love it. I think it would be, one of my things early on with John, Josh, and Hayden, who created Cobra Kai, and they were on board with this from the get-go. But I said I can't even think about moving forward with this unless the Miyagi character is laced throughout this show for whatever it is, whether it goes 1 seasons or 10 seasons. I mean, I need that to be a piece of the fabric in this show. Otherwise, because without that, you don't have this show. Without that performance and that partnership of Daniel and Miyagi, there is no Cobra Kai, right? They're not. I mean, you wouldn't have the hit movie then. I think he would. I think he would love it, and we feel his presence. We all say that. Billy Zapka and Martin Kove and Elizabeth
Yeah.
Shue, everyone else who's come on to do Cobra Kai, and Yuji Okamoto, who plays Chosen so phenomenally in season
Yeah.
5. We all feel the spirit of Pat there, and I think it's great, and there's a lot of that in the book as well. I mean, I really write for that.
Absolutely. I just want to bring out real quick. Tonight's show is brought to you in part by Realty Executives Matthew DeFeeti. Please check out his website for all your home buying and selling needs, www.nutleyrex.com, or you can call them at 862-228-0554. Ralph, I have 2 gentlemen who are watching from the UK, and although they haven't served in the military, they serve our community in a different way. They're healthcare workers, and they work in hospitals, and they're big fans of this show and even bigger fans of yours. Their names are Robert McCullough and Richard Hilton, and they're stuck in COVID wards because out in the UK, COVID is still a very real thing. I was just wondering if you can just give them a quick hello.
I would love to give it. This is Robert, and what's the other?
Robert and Richard.
Robert and Richard. I should remember that, double R's. Robert Richards. This is Ralph. There's 3 R's for you. Listen, thank you for your fandom and your support, and for all you do, and for your service. And this is just a joy of mine. I really have been enjoying this interview. So many of them feel the same, and this doesn't. I feel there's a bigger purpose to get on and talk to you guys, and it is not unlike the Karate Kid and what I say in this book. It's a 2-way street of inspiration, and I get that back from the fans, and I'm getting that back from you guys. So I'm sending it over to the UK and out there in Armed Forces radio and everything else.
Well, Danny, you want to do what we only got a few minutes left. I want to get a few more questions in, so go ahead.
Perfect, because I'm hoping Ralph can humor me with a little lightning round, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Because one of the things in the book that I took away is you got a lot of passions, not just acting, of course, and the Miyagi verse that has been created, but sports and music. So if you're ready, here we go.
Let's go.
Favorite New York Met?
Wow, Keith Hernandez.
Favorite New York Islander?
Brian Trottier.
Favorite movie not featuring you?
Wow, that's tough.
Wow.
Good one.
The Godfather. I mean, it's not.
Hey, there you go. Paisan. There we go.
There's a million of them, but that's one that I could go. That just came to mind.
Yeah. Best concert you've ever been to?
Springsteen. Probably the Born in the USA tour. It was summer of '84, and Karate Kid was in the movie theater.
Awesome. Favorite Bruce Springsteen album?
Because I love Thunder Road so much, I'll say Born to Run. But man, the River's great. I could go on and on. I hate these one-word answers.
Yeah. All right. We got a few minutes left, so I want to do something real quick. I know you got to run. I got a quick video. It's like 2 minutes long. It's a tribute to our men and women overseas. And then I got one final question, and I'll let you head out.
You got it.
Almighty God, we give you thanks today for our nation's veterans. We honor them for their faithful service in defending and preserving our freedom. We are grateful to those who served during times of peace, standing ready, bravely awaiting their call to duty. We are grateful to those who served during times of unrest, enduring conflict, and bearing the physical and spiritual wounds of war. We ask that you bless them, heal their wounds, and give them peace. We thank you, God, for all our veterans, those of generations past and present. May we never forget what our country has asked of them and what they have given in return. Amen.
Wow.
Amazing.
That still chokes me up. We're out of time. I was going to try and shoehorn in one last question, but
give me one more. Give me one more question.
All right, Ralph. For those of viewers and fans, for those of the core audience that followed you from the beginning to the new fans that you've generated on Cobra Kai, between the Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, and the new book Waxing On the Karate Kid and Me, what is the one message that you want or hope that someone takes away from the whole thing?
I'd like to believe that I've not that I'm done by any stretch, but I've kind of stuck the landing through it all, through the ups and downs and skinning my knees and scraping my hands. And I try to continue to fall forward, even though sometimes I slip backwards in life like we all do. I think, coming out on my feet and keeping one foot in and one foot out of it all and finding that balance, believe it or not, it's as simple as that. It's important. And those are lessons I learned through the film and in life, and trying to keep both feet planted firmly and kind of stick that landing. And if you're going to tumble forward so you get back up and keep going. And that I came out of it. There's so many of these stories, these memoirs that are crash and burn, redemption, down the slide, build back up, the drugs and alcohol, the salacious. But I don't have a ton of, I've had my days, but not, I've never gone down that path. And so maybe to take away the respect and privilege of understanding, I've been, I've had great opportunities, and I try to be positive and pay that forward, and not take it for granted.
Well, I want to thank you for that, and thank you for so many years of entertaining. I'm gonna close with this. I want to thank my esteemed co-hosts,
Yes,
Robert Vicci and Daniel Senesky. I'd love to do it again another time. You know, you have an open door with us, but I just want, and Rob and Danny, you can reiterate this as much as they deserve to get to have people say thanks for their service. I just want you to know that sometimes, and Rob will attest to this, you're working 18 hours a day and you might have a half hour, an hour of downtime. And to watch The Karate Kid or Cobra Kai or read your book for that few minutes of time, it brings them home. And because sometimes our men and women are in forward areas that like the bottom can drop out. It's not like they're in Alabama, which, you
yeah.
know, is pretty safe. But on behalf of them, I want to thank you for the entertainment value that you provided for so many years.
I appreciate that. There's a little piece in the book I speak about talking to a USO on a just like this, and as some veteran said to me how inspirational I was, and I write to that because I understand it, but it's humbling to hear that, and it's that two-way street of inspiration. So I hope folks get the book and read it and enjoy it, and it's becomes all I had hoped for. So I thank you all for this time, and till next time, there will be a next time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ralph.
Thank you,
Good
fellas.
luck.
Thank you,
God bless you guys.
Continued
God bless.
success, and we'll see you again soon.
You
Thank
got
you
it.
all for joining. I want to thank once again Rob Vicci and Danny Senesky for sitting in tonight. It was a phenomenal show. And I want to thank all the listeners and to all our men and women who are still over there. God bless you all. I'm sorry we couldn't get more questions and we had a hard out. So, but I wanted to get your take on this. Did you guys enjoy this?
Oh, phenomenal. You kidding me? We could do this every day.
Yeah, Danny got his lightning round and he's happy.
That's right. That's
Danny,
right.
do me a favor. Danny, loosen your tie. You're not getting court-martialed.
No.
All right, loosen your tie. You look like Tom Cruise in what do you call that? A Few Good Men. Did you order the code red?
You got to respect the uniform. That's all. You know,
Absolutely.
30 years of looking sharp and setting the example. It's hard. You can't just toss that aside even after a year and a half.
Yeah. But, hey, Danny, did you order the code red? Guys, thank you. God bless Robert. You know I love you, brother. And I want everybody to check out vetrest.org. It's a phenomenal organization. It helps our men and women who are returning home to acclimate themselves back into civilian life. And this man is a tireless. What he does for vets, he builds wheelchair ramps. He holds fundraisers. He helps our men and women come back and realize that we do care, because I don't know if this, I'm sure it bothered you, Rob, but during the pandemic, homelessness rose for our veterans, and that really
horrifying. It's horrifying. You know, the last thing you want to do is lock someone down, especially a veteran who needs that physical contact, that personal contact. And so anyone who's struggling, get a hold of me. I'm sure we'll enlist the services of Captain Senesky and anyone else who's out there that can help. And anyone, anywhere, we can extend an olive branch to. And if we can't help, we'll find that charity that will. And Carlo, you're the best. You're the master at getting the word out. And God, we just can't thank you enough for all you do for us, because you always think of us veterans first. God bless you, brother.
That's my hot button. You know what I'm saying? But I want to also thank Jennifer Sandler with Jill Fritzo Publications for making this happen. Thank you so much. And once again, oh my God, what is that? What are you, a Mountie?
I'm like, Air Cav, baby. Air Cavalry.
Oh, okay. You look like, what's his name? FDR.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Actually, I love the smell of jet fuel in the morning, but you know, napalm works too.
There you go. Well, you guys, I want to let you know, and Rob, you already know this. Rob has been my friend for 5 years, but he's more like my family. And Danny, I've known since high school. We just reconnected, and I hope to stay close to you. And Danny, you know what, Rob? This was Danny's first time doing a podcast, and how great was he? He asked the best question.
You
Yeah,
you put me under pressure.
Yeah, you showed me up, and I'm the host. Now I gotta up my game.
We gotta step it up, Carlo.
You gave me plenty of time to do the research. I took advantage of it.
Well, you did phenomenal, and I hope your dad and mom saw it, and I hope they're proud of it. They should be proud of you, and as well. But we will. I want to know. I'm going to put it out there now. I want to know if you guys want to co-host for Kathy Moriarty.
Sure.
Always.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another book I have to read. It'll be 2 books this year.
Absolutely. And then we got a couple people that are coming up, and I know you'll have fun with this one guy, Mike Starr. I don't know if you remember him. He played Frenchie in Goodfellas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he said he'll give us a whole hour. See, Ralph had a hard out, so we had to get rid of him. And believe me, the fact that we got 45 minutes is awesome. So,
That's
and
right.
I want to thank
That's
him
cool.
once again, Jennifer Sandler from Jill Fritzo Publications, Matthew Feedy with the Realty Executives, Richard Hilton and Rob McCullum, my two healthcare workers out in the UK. You guys have a great Thanksgiving, and we will definitely talk soon. And that's it for me and for us here on Animal House Radio. Please like our page on Facebook, Animal House Radio, and spread the word. Share this video as much as you can, guys.
And Carlos, share the veteran video you played because that's tearjerker. That hit home.
Yeah, I was going
Share
to
that.
play the Star Spangled Banner in the beginning, but it was kind of grainy. The one I liked is Whitney Houston at the Super Bowl.
Oh, nothing
That
better.
was yeah. So I was trying to get in touch with Christine, but I couldn't get in touch with her. I wanted her to come on, but she didn't.
Tooch?
Yeah, I miss her. I think she moved to Michigan or something.
I didn't know that. I'll have to. I'll find
I
it
don't know.
today.
I'm almost you know me. I'm Scott
She's down
Shot
in
in
Egg
my head.
Harbor. She was down in
Okay.
Egg Harbor, but maybe she would. I don't think so, but we'll
Oh,
track her down.
Maybe that's what I saw. All right.
We can find her.
All right, everybody.
All right,
We will
gentlemen.
see you all next time right here on Animal House Radio. Guys, I love you, and I'll take care. I'll see you soon.
So long. Happy Veterans Day.